Batman, Batman, hey, Batman, Batman. What? Mr. Never use a gap, man. Yeah. Never turn like a bat fan.
What is going on, guys? This is your boy, NBA One Hoops, back up in your feed with another video. And today we're going to be talking about the legend, Isiah Thomas. Not the one that plays now, on the Wizards and, had that MVP caliber season for the Celtics. We talking about the OG, Isiah Thomas from the bad boy Pistons. One of the greatest players in NBA history. Now, before we get into the video, right on the screen for you, make sure you guys are following me on all these social media platforms, including Twitter, Instagram, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, you name it, I have it. So make sure you guys are following me across all social media platforms to stay connected if you like what I do. And also make sure you leave a like, comment, what you guys think, and make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't. Subscribing really goes a long way, and I really appreciate that. So, without further ado, let's just go ahead and get into the business. Now, Isiah Thomas was drafted in 1981 and is easily one of the greatest point guards in NBA history, and let's go ahead and get into it. Let me tell you why. On the screen, right there, I have for you his career stats, regular season and playoffs. For the regular season, he averaged 19.2 points per game, 9.3 assists per game. He was easily one of the greatest passers ever. 3.6 boards. He was only 6 foot, cut him some slack. 1.9 steals, which is very exceptional. And get this. For his career, he was a 45% shooter from the field. Now, mind you, he was 6 foot. Mind you of the era that he played in. He played in the 80s. There was no defensive 3 seconds. There was hand checking. And, there was a much bigger presence, a bigger interior presence in terms of rim protection. So, despite all that, he was still able to remain relatively efficient, in terms of, his shooting percentage from the field. For his career, he was a 75% free throw shooter. And his PER for his career was 18.1. Now let's look at the playoffs. For the playoffs, in his career, he averaged 20 points per game, 8.9 assists per game, 4.7 boards, 2.1 steals, which is a significant amount more than he did in the regular season. Field goal percentage, 44. And if you would take a look at the screen and notice the difference between his free throw shooting in the playoffs and his three-point shooting in the playoffs, they're significantly better than what he did in the regular season. And in fact, when it comes down to it, Isiah Thomas scoring, rebounding, free throw percentage, three-point percentage, true shooting percentage, and PER all increased from the playoffs compared to the regular season. So you already know the vibes. My man Isiah was a playoff player. Playoff Isiah, if you will. And that's pretty much all we have for the stats. So let's go ahead and move on to his prime. So what was Isiah Thomas like during the peak of his career? And I would say the peak of his career was around his second season all the way to 1990. And during that stretch, he averaged 20 points per game, 10 assists. So he was giving you a double-double pretty much throughout the heart of his prime. 3.8 boards, 2.1 steals. So, for somebody, a small guard, he was actually a very, very good defender. And for him to give you over 2 steals a game throughout the heart of his prime is literally, it's insane, honestly. It's very exceptional to say the least. And throughout the heart of his prime, he shot 47% from the field. That is absolutely insane. Again, especially for his size. The man was just a complete monster on the court, a competitor. He paved the way for ball handlers like Kyrie and Allen Iverson today. He had a real great, solid, tight, fundamental type of handle. And he got to wherever he needed to go. He was just lightning quick, as you can see on the screen with these highlights. And there was just pretty much nothing. There was pretty much nothing you could really do. He could have scored 30 at will if he wanted to, but he sacrificed stats for his team. Now let's go ahead and look at his accomplishments and accolades throughout his career. He is a 2-time NBA champion. He actually won back-to-back, 1989 and 1990. He's a 1-time Finals MVP, in which he won that Finals MVP for the remarkable 27 points per game performance that he put up against the Clyde Drexler-led Portland Trail Blazers in the 1990 NBA Finals. He was absolutely possessed during that finals. 5-time All-NBA selections, 3 were first team, 2 were second team, 12-time All-Star. Isiah Thomas played 13 seasons in the league, and for 12 of those seasons, he was an All-Star, 2-time All-Star MVP, and not to mention the fact that my man Isiah in 1985 led the league, the entire NBA, in assists per game with about 14 a game. Now, that is absolutely insane. Let's go ahead and move on. Now, let me just give you a few records or accomplishments that he has now. I gave you the accolades, but let me give you the accomplishments, okay? He averaged at least 20 points per game, 5 separate seasons. He averaged over 10 assists per game for a season 4 times. So 4 different seasons, he was tallying at least 10 assists per game. And he averaged more than 2 steals, so at least 2 steals per game for 5 seasons. When it comes to the leaderboards, on the all-time list, he's 9th all-time in total assists. He's 12th all-time in playoff assists. He's 5th all-time in assists per game with, I believe, 9.3. And he's 7th all-time in playoff assists per game. So, the fact that no one really talks about Isiah anymore, the fact that people are just so quick to underrate him is honestly insane. He was just the absolute truth. He could pretty much do anything on the court. He could score when he needed to. He can get you 15 assists on any given night. And, obviously he wasn't the greatest on-ball defender, but he had real quick hands, insanely fast, and he can get steals and disrupt the passing lane. So let's go ahead and talk about something else. Something I don't normally talk about. But let's talk about the competition that Isiah Thomas faced in the playoffs. Now, right there on the screen, notable teams beaten by Isiah Thomas' Pistons. In 1987, he beat the Dominique-led Atlanta Hawks, who were a 57-win team. In 1988, he beat the 57-win Celtics team led by Larry Bird. In 1989, in the NBA Finals, he beat the Magic-led Lakers, who were also a 57-win team. And in 1990, he beat the Bulls, who were a 55-win team. And in the NBA Finals, he beat the Clyde Drexler-led Portland Trail Blazers. And it doesn't stop there. I also have right on the other side of the screen who he actually beat, the players, the big dogs and the other teams that he beat. Take a look at this. In the postseason, he matched up against Michael Jordan 4 times, and he beat him 3 times. He's 3-1 against Jordan. He beat Larry Bird Celtics 3 times in the playoffs. He beat Dominique in the playoffs. He beat Magic Johnson in the finals, and he beat Clyde Drexler in the finals. So when it comes to, competition faced and competition beaten, it's really hard to not name Isiah Thomas as, some of the best competition beat in NBA history as far as the player is concerned. And that's pretty much all I have for you guys today. Isiah Thomas was the absolute truth. He was the epitome of a great point guard who could also score or pass. He can pretty much do it all. You look at somebody like a Rondo, they're too pass first. They're too much of a pass first type of point guard. Same thing with John Stockton or Steve Nash. But Isiah had a little bit more scoring in his arsenal. He could really just embarrass defenders at will, as you can see on the screen with these highlights. He was a good shooter. He wasn't a great shooter from 3. He was much better shooter in the playoffs, but for the most part, he was just the man. And that's pretty much all I have for you guys today. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. Make sure you guys are following me on all social media platforms. Twitter at NBA1Hoops, Instagram at NBA1.Hoops. You name it, like I said for the 1000th time, I have it. And that is pretty much all. Thank you so much for all the support. Hit that like button. Definitely drop a comment. I'd love to talk with you guys in the comment section. And that is all I have for you guys. Have a good one.